Brilyn Hollyhand is the co-chair of the RNC Youth Council, and he joins me now. Brilyn, good morning to you. I want to get to the reaction from Democrats and the media in just a moment, but first, this is really important because there are a lot of young voters out there, you being one of them, and many of them get their news on big events like this from social media. So what is your reaction and the reaction of young voters to something like this, a second assassination attempt on a former president?
Yeah, absolutely, Carly. Good morning. Thanks so much for having me. This was terrifying. This is something that my generation, paused for yesterday as a moment where we had a second assassination attempt in 65 days. I'm 18 years old. I'll be a first-time voter in this election. We're being told that this isn't the norm, that this isn't something that used to happen, but the rhetoric has gotten so high that this is concerning. Listen, Carly, I can tell you this morning that I'm going to be voting for the guy that they've tried to take out twice, somebody that scares the radicals so much that these people are trying to take out of power because he's actually going to fight back against that. And that's concerning. I think this is really going to energize Gen Z voters, if anything. And my generation looks at this as something of the radicals have gotten too hot. The temperature in the room has gotten too high. We said that after the first attempt 65 days ago, and they've continued to call him names. They've continued to do all of that you saw in the clip. And it's really, really frustrating.
Well, we're talking about reaction now, and after this attempted assassination attempt broke, news quickly turned to political rhetoric and trying to tone it down. But on MSNBC, they directed those comments towards the Trump campaign. Listen to this.
Do you expect to hear anything from the Trump campaign about toning down the rhetoric, toning down the violence, or would that be atypical of the former president?
Well, Alex, remember back to the assassination attempt on President Trump's life and how, there was talk of a new tone, and it did seem like he was, just trying to take it down a few notches. But then by the end of his convention speech, we were kind of back to where we started.
So, Brilyn, how do you get there? After a shooter was found on his golf course, apparently targeting him, their conversation is turning towards him toning down his rhetoric. How do you square that circle?
You just can't, Carly. The attempt to blame this assassination attempt on Donald Trump's disgusting. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, the DNC, their media hacks wake up every single morning and attempt to call Donald Trump Hitler. They attempt to call him a threat to democracy. Those exact words that come out of their mouth dozens of times every single day on this campaign, except they're shocked when one of their radical supporters actually goes out and tries to shoot the former president twice. This is the result of their words. We were taught in kindergarten that words have consequences, and we've seen in the past 65 days that words do have consequences. Carly, I was on the convention floor in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, when Donald Trump walked out that Monday night for the first time, like 36 hours after his assassination attempt, and he spoke later that week. And in his speech, he inspired unity. He inspired Americans of all ages, all races, all backgrounds to come together to support a new way forward. Make America Great Again isn't just a campaign slogan. It's a way of life that my generation wants. And clearly, there is one candidate that scares the radicals so much by actually wanting to improve the country. They tried to take him out twice, Carly, and now the media is playing cover-up for him. No, that's disgusting.
Well, you are the co-chair of the RNC Youth Advisory Council, and in 2020, Joe Biden was able to turn out more young voters than anticipated. So what are Republicans' plan this time around for Trump to have that level of momentum with young voters?
Yeah, absolutely. I just spent the past weekend with Laura Trump, the co-chair of the RNC. She came to my home state of Alabama, and we actually filmed some TikToks together. So we sat down and understood that to win Gen Z, my peers, we have to meet our generation where they are, and that's online, Carly. So we sat and filmed this Get Out the Vote video that reached over 5 million viewers, 3 million on the GOP's account and another 2 million on Laura's account, to share a simple message, to get out the vote by registering to vote ahead of Election Day, by marking your calendar and bringing 5 friends to the polls with you. Listen, it's really cool to see not only the Trump campaign and the RNC embracing Gen Z, but to have a member of the Trump family, Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, actually embrace my generation, come talk to us, is really, really cool. And I'll say this, there was a very powerful moment at the end of the TikTok that we filmed where I turned to Laura and said, Laura, just explain to my generation why it's so important for us to vote for her. And she said very clearly, Donald Trump is the only candidate that can improve our country. We saw last week on the debate stage where Kamala Harris had no plan to fix the nation she's broken. She spent more time talking about January 6th than she talked about the cost of eggs or the price of gas. She has no plan to better my generation, help us grow up in a prosperous future. Donald Trump does, and that's what we're all going to be voting for.
Well, deadline to send absentee ballots to Wisconsin voters is this week. In-person early voting begins in Virginia on Friday. Both of those are swing states, so this is upon us. Brilyn Hollyhand, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.